Well, back on Friday night here on BBC One, we left Lee Mack in charge. It seemed like a good idea at the time.
Welcome to Have I Got News for You? I'm Lee Mack. In the news this week, at a hotel in Mayfair, as the Newsreader of the Year awards get underway, it looks like it'll be a disappointing evening for Jon Snow.
Well, it's very interesting because they've actually locked the building down and they're not letting me in.
While waiting for his grandson to finish football practice, one man hears his application for the Disability Living Allowance has finally been approved. And after a string of business failures, one man insists on taking a statue of St Jude, patron saint of hope, with him at all times. On Ian's team tonight is a broadcaster and journalist who recently stripped down to her swimsuit in a campaign to promote female body confidence. She said, "Here I am, complete with cellulite and droopy boobs." You and me both. Please welcome Janet Street Porter. And with Paul tonight is a comedian who was once heckled by a man dressed as a bottle of ketchup. So she turned him upside down and whacked him repeatedly on the arse. Please welcome Sarah Pascoe. And we start with the biggest stories of the week. Ian and Janet, take a look at this.
Oh, this is the Windrush row, a passport the type no one's got.
Yes.
That's the Home Office. Have that.
Oh, these are the documents that have mysteriously gone missing. The disembarkation cards?
Yes, and they shredded them all.
But no one knows who shredded them.
Well, this is the big debate.
It could have just been a really keen temp, because sometimes when you get a temp job, they don't actually tell you what to do, but you don't want them to say, oh, if you say, oh, there's nothing for me to do, they go, oh, go home then, you don't get paid. So you just find jobs.
Essentially, someone's to blame because these people, they were the children of immigrants who arrived on the boat and they no longer have landing cards, which would have proved they were here legally and there wasn't a problem. But someone shredded them all.
Yeah.
And at Prime Minister's Question Time, Jeremy Corbyn said it was you, and Theresa May said, no, it was you.
The usual high level of debate.
It was.
Actually, regardless of whose fault it is, it's incredibly unfair. So I think the only fair thing to do, which is what has to start happening, is that everyone else's passports and birth certificates are also shredded. And you just start the Hunger Games.
I think what's particularly disgusting about all of this is these were people we begged to come to Britain to rebuild Britain after the Second World War.
Home Secretary Amber Rudd apologised to the families of those who've arrived on ships such as the Windrush as far back as 1948. What headline did The Sun use to describe her handling of the situation?
Ruddy hell.
Rudd-faced.
Is it?
Yeah.
It's Rudd Face Day.
Should we have a look?
Yes, have a look.
Shit for brains. What did Theresa May do, then, specifically as the Home Secretary, when she was Home Secretary, that made things worse?
She brought in a policy making Britain less attractive to immigrants. And
It was called austerity.
Yes.
She brought in an act in 2012 to make it a more hostile environment.
Yeah,
and she did the original billboard trick, where people went round with huge billboards saying, go home, which a lot of office workers took literally.
It wasn't just the billboards, though. This is... who remembers this from Theresa May's time as Home Secretary?
The illegal immigrant who cannot be deported because, and I am not making this up, because he had a pet cat.
Although, it turned out that's not true, and she was actually making that up.
Yeah.
Do you know where these officials were based, particularly?
St Kitts.
They were actually, the people who destroyed the documents, I mean, that was in a Croydon office.
There's been a lot going on in Croydon.
Oh, yeah. There's more to Croydon than giant IKEAs. There's other things as well. Maybe that's what those giant IKEA towers are. Maybe they're chimneys where they're burning all the documents. According to a former employee who used to work in the Croydon office, when someone was applying for a passport, the passport office would ring up the Croydon office and we would say, I look in the basement. Doesn't really sound like a watertight government filing system, does it? That's more the sort of thing you do when, you know, the sun comes out and a member of your family says, where's the barbecue? Oh. According to the Jamaican Prime Minister, who asked Theresa May the question, you know, how many people have been deported in error, she replied, they don't know. And Cabinet Office Minister David Lidington confirmed this, telling the BBC, I talked to the Home Secretary about this last night and the position is we have no information.
For people who used to be secretaries, they're not very good at admin.
What else happened whilst Theresa May was Home Secretary that has resurfaced?
Very, very little. She was there for 6 years.
This is incredible. The government printed a leaflet in 2013 giving advice to people being deported from the UK to Jamaica.
Oh.
Included amongst the do's and don'ts is this tip. Overseas accents can attract unwanted attention. Try to be Jamaican. Use local accents and dialects. You know, which is pretty difficult when you've, you know, been living in the Midlands most of your life. Meanwhile, what has a House of Lords report concluded about the UK Citizenship Test Handbook?
Oh, loads of the questions are wrong.
Correct.
And out of date.
Yeah.
It says that Margaret Thatcher's one of the living ex-prime ministers.
Yeah. Let's test your knowledge of outdated and incorrect facts. Fingers on buzzers. One of the questions referred to the European Convention. What's wrong with that?
I know the answer.
Oh. Yeah. Can I just say, you don't have to buzz and put your hand up.
It's because it isn't supposed to have the word European in it.
That is the exact answer. They should have referred to the Human Rights Convention. Despite being one of the few conventions passed by the Council of Europe, it doesn't have Europe in the title.
Are we getting points for this bit?
No, you just avoid being deported at the end of the
Given how entertaining that was, let's make this the last question in that particular section.
No.
The handbook included a claim that Charles II had been recalled from exile in France. What's wrong with that? Ian? Janet?
Ian?
I like the fact you both buzzed and then decided to let the other one answer.
He wasn't in France.
He was Holland.
He was in the Low Countries.
What did you say?
Holland.
Holland is the right answer.
That's right. That's why I said it.
If I'm giving points, I'll probably give you one. Do you know what? That was great fun. We're going to round things off with a quick game of Would He Lie to Us? It's just the one question.
Yeah.
Is this a lying hunt?
Are we answering it?
We really are. That was just a setup.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes. He's just been caught out buying 50% share in a whole bunch of luxury flats in Southampton, somewhere on the south coast, and not declaring it in the members' interest, and he's been accused of possibly money laundering.
Oh. I bet
He's
you I
got
get
so much
something in my
money.
ear saying, can we just reword that, or is that...
Oh, no, sorry, not. I didn't quote.
He's been
he
accused of possibly money laundering.
Yeah.
Oh, look, there's a thing that's
and
come up there.
There's something I've got to read out on the screen.
Yeah.
Definitely not money laundering.
Yeah, there we are.
I wondered why that man was frantically waving his arm going, read that! Can I just check how this works as guest host? Who gets sued? Is it the show or me?
It's you.
It's me.
Yeah.
He was not money laundering. He definitely was not money laundering.
Definitely not money laundering.
Yeah.
But, I mean, people write about this every week. If you fail to declare these things to Companies House, it is suspicious. You know, MPs, obviously, they don't tell you what they're doing. But this was a proper business decision, and he didn't declare it, which is very odd.
Yes, Jeremy Hunt failed to declare the purchase of 7 luxury flats, both to Companies House and on the register of MP's interests, even though he wasn't money laundering.
7 flats, Ian, is a lot of flats.
It is. You know, Janet, you're very wise in so many ways.
Yeah.
It makes you ask the question, where did you get the money, doesn't it, Janet?
Yeah.
Just to be clear, Jeremy Hunt has not been accused of money laundering.
He so has. He's fallen foul of legislation which was introduced in order to prevent money laundering. That is true. Trust me, I mean, I always win.
He's got a season ticket to Court 1 at the Old Bailey.
Yes, this is the Windrush scandal, which heaped more pressure on the Prime Minister in the Commons. In 2013, the Home Office printed a guide for people being deported, which included the tip, try to be Jamaican, use local accents and dialect. That was an official Home Office publication. What is going on? Or wagwan. It's, And again, just to clarify, he didn't launder anyone. It's been revealed that boxes of docky... Can I say wagwan again? I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, say it again.
Can you have a go, Ian?
What's going on?
Paul and Sarah, take a look at this.
Thank you. This is Donald Trump, the man who's slowly being sucked into news events all around him. That's President Macron of France. That's our response to the Syria problem. There's the RAF's latest plane without wings, which is being piloted now. So, yes, it's about Donald Trump. It's a Syria bombing, which lasted about an hour, I think, targeting places where they believe that chemical weapons were being produced. And, essentially, that's what it's about.
Did you see how Channel 4 News covered the original attack in Syria?
No.
But first, from Westminster, Fatima Manji reports, and I must warn you, there are distressing images.
RAF Tornado jets fired 8 Storm Shadow missiles. What's the colloquial term for these weapons?
Jeremy Hunters.
They're called fire and forget. According to the BBC News, they use GPS mapping that are so accurate you can fire them from 300 miles away and forget about them. Confident that they'll hit their intended target. Yeah, because GPSs have never gone wrong, have they? What can we expect in retaliation?
Aren't they going to hack into our NHS internet?
Yeah, they're going to make the NHS
According to
worse.
I think according to the Daily Mail, we can expect to be hacked any day now.
They are saying that they are going to, you know, possibly even hack normal people's routers.
I think if they did slow down people's Wi-Fi, they would have...
Civil war.
Yeah. That's when people would finally go, all right, too far, the Russians.
But half of Britain has really slow Wi-Fi already. Rural Britain has to put 2 coat hangers together and stand on the roof to get, you know, to be able to download anything. So go ahead, hack it. It might be better.
Challenge to the Russians, though. Why did Theresa May go to Parliament on Monday?
She works there.
Well, yes. I'll rephrase it, sir. Let me rephrase it.
OK.
What did Theresa May do at work on Monday?
Shred it.
She went to make an official common statement about the attack on Syria, which lasted 3 hours. Quite surprising that she had any energy, as she was already drifting off on Sunday when she faced questions from the media.
Given the failure, as you have said in your statement, of all diplomatic efforts so far, what is the plan following these strikes?
Sorry, what is the plan for...
I stayed up for that.
Yeah.
It's a pity she didn't.
How did Diane Abbott manage to cloud the issue?
She sang.
Diane tweeted a photograph of the evil interventionist West bombing Syria, which turned out not to be a photograph of Syria.
Yeah, she tweeted a picture, which looks very dramatic, but is actually a faked picture of an Israeli jet bombing Iran.
Which isn't really an American jet bombing Syria, is it?
No.
But it's near for Diane. She tends to work to the nearest 100,000.
Why does someone not fact-check their tweets?
They sit in the debating chamber tweeting while they're supposed to be working, speaking. They want to stop it, but they can't.
Bloody rude, isn't it?
I know. Exactly, Ian. Thank you.
I didn't know you had a phone.
It's actually a small mirror.
You're right, it's a prop.
Yeah.
There was actually a demonstration... I love this. There was a demonstration against the missile strike outside Parliament on Monday, and amongst a variety of views, there was this quite robust defence of President Assad against the action of the British government.
Is President Assad a good person?
Yes, he is! Yes. He's a very good man. And he's a doctor, for heaven's sake. Do you think he goes around killing Syrian people?
He's not the Messiah, he's a very good... I don't think he is a doctor, by the way. I think he studied ophthalmology. He's an eye.
And also the idea that if he was a doctor that he couldn't then kill people. I mean, there are some famous killing doctors, aren't there? Shipman, Crippen.
Yeah.
No.
Yes, right.
So this is the surprise attack on Syria. According to the Daily Star, defence cuts have left our missiles out of date. I'll say, at least 2 of them had "Take that, Fritz" written on the side. According to The Sun on Sunday, the 105 missile blitz was spearheaded by the RAF. Spearheads being the most up-to-date weapons there. Several Tory MPs demanded to know if Jeremy Corbyn would ever support military action in the Middle East. One said that Corbyn would refuse to authorise military action even if the Isle of Wight was invaded. He could have suggested a small island off the coast of Cornwall, but that, of course, would have been silly. Now on to round 2, the menu of news.
Hey.
Let's have a look at what's on offer. Some pies, a pie, a puff pastry pudding, a pint, some pesto, Paul Hollywood, potatoes and some packaging. So let's pick a pea. Why are these 2 angry about pies?
There's 2 people who in Morrison's in Middlesbrough who went in there before 9 o'clock and asked for a meat pie, and they were said no. You can't have a meat pie before 9 o'clock. You can have a fruit pie, you can have anything else, but you can't have a meat pie because we're not serving them before 9 o'clock.
This is Linda and Tony Gilks, who were furious.
Which one's which?
They're the 2 human beings, not the things in the hand.
I was looking at the pasties.
This is Linda and Tony Gilks, who were furious after staff at their local branch of Morrison's refused to sell them meat pies before 9 a.m.
I thought it was only alcohol you couldn't buy before 8 o'clock.
It's not...
So I
Is that what you're doing in there at 8?
Are you speaking from experience?
Yes, I am. I put my hand up. Recently, there was a special offer on rosé or something like that at my local supermarket.
Yeah, and you
so
raced
I went
round?
there. Well, I was catching the train back to London, so I went there at 7:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
The minute it opened, I got 12 bottles of the booze, got them to the checkout, and they wouldn't sell them to me, so I had a strop.
What's that? Check as a vacuum beer?
I had to go and sit in my car. I left them on the checkout till 8 o'clock because you can't buy booze before 8
And
o'clock.
you sat in your car?
Yeah, looking at them through the glass window.
Did you say, "Do you know who I am"?
No, I didn't. I wanted my...
Because I'd forgotten.
That's why I drink.
Why did I tell you that story?
Don't worry, it's not like it's going out on national television.
Lee, was there booze in those pasty things?
No, there's nothing to do with booze.
Yeah,
No, there is...
It's not the law. It's not a legal thing. It was usually what happens when they're baking is they get the pies out at 9, but the member of staff didn't know she wasn't allowed to sell them, but actually she is. But it's still the stupidest thing.
Yeah.
It's almost like the more you analyse this story, the story is actually the pies came out the oven a bit early at Morrison's.
So, I'm so annoyed with
They're
these
too
people.
hot to eat and there's a health and safety reason.
No, there's not a health and safety reason, and they could have sold them hot fruit pies.
Can I just say you are all debating this more fiercely than the Syrian question?
There are more lives at stake with the pies.
I've been thinking about these people all week. So when I first read it, I'm in the press, they're like, "Oh, Tony has 3 fish and chips a week." That's his personality.
That was the strange thing, because according to the Teesside Gazette, husband Tony eats fish and chips 3 days a week and really touches pastry.
Fascinating man. The reason I hate them as well is because...
Who are you hating?
These 2 people, because...
you hate them?
Anyone who poses...
They're the innocent victims.
No, they're not.
Aren't they?
They're greedy pie faces, attention seekers. I don't like...
Extraordinary outburst.
I hate anyone...
This is how Brexit happened. People like you.
No, this is how breakfast happened.
It's when the photographer from the paper comes along, goes, "Oh, tell us your fascinating story again. What time is it?" And then they hold these prop pies and they're putting on sad faces like, I had to go somewhere else for my...
And they're Cornish pasties anyway, so they're not even
accurate. Because they couldn't get the pies.
They couldn't get the pies.
That's the story.
That's the story.
Can we get the UN weapons inspectors in to check?
What did husband Tony do to vent his anger at Morrison's?
He spoke to all the papers like he was Katie Price.
Did he
little press junket with his pasty. I hate him. I'm sorry.
What, From Middlesbrough or just from Morrison?
They're going to give him a discount card. He's giving
No, they
that
shouldn't.
branch of
Then you
Morrison's
reward that
loads
kind of behaviour. Well, they're so busy they couldn't wait 10 minutes.
Yeah, Janet sat in her car waiting for the...
You sit there.
Yeah.
Don't mind me, I'll wait for the vodka to be warmed up.
It was rosé. It was rosé.
How did matters get resolved?
They were both deported.
There was a dramatic U-turn. Morrisons have agreed to sell meat pies from 7 a.m.
All I'll say is that now the poor Morrison's workers, I'm kind of with Sarah on this, because those workers have now got to get off their asses, crawl out of bed, put their Morrison's uniform and crawl into work at God knows what hour to bake a meat pie for those two miserable people. They can have it by...
They're sat at home, that poor couple, eating a nice pie watching this guy. This has got out of hand. Let's pick another P. So, fingers on buzzers. Oh, you've got them on the buzzers. Can we just set some rules here?
Yeah.
Don't put your fingers on the buzzers till I've said fingers on buzzers. Fingers on buzzers. How did this... Who's it? How did this pensioner get into trouble with a pork pie this week?
It's really sad.
Is it?
This man was just eating a pork pie.
Yeah.
Some crumbs kind of fell from the pie that he was eating, and he was given a fine for littering.
Bastard! This is pensioner Peter Vipham, who was fined £50 after litter enforcement officers filmed him dropping crumbs from a mini pork pie that he was eating. What did the council say after they watched footage of the incident back?
What a terrible person.
You mean someone filmed it as a... You didn't mention that.
They conceded that the officers had been overzealous in this instance and agreed to cancel the fine.
OK, good.
To celebrate his victory, Peter treated himself to a slap-up meal. He had a mini Scotch egg outside Argos. According to The Sun, the pensioner who was fined for dropping pork pie crumbs was a retired shoemaker. Not the first time a story in The Sun has been full of cobblers and pork pies. OK, back to the menu. Let's pick another P. How did a puff pastry pudding get John Turode in a bit of a state this week?
He cried, didn't he? He got very emotional because the apple crumble, as you said, was delicious. It surpassed anything he'd ever stuck in his gob. Look, he's welling up there, as you can see.
Well, I've been on MasterChef.
How did you get on?
I was number 2.
What was your speciality dish?
I tried to do a meal called Roadkill Dinner, which was a pheasant that I picked up and skinned.
You didn't really find the roadkill, though, right?
I do eat roadkill, yes.
Have
What's
you
wrong
brought-
with eating roadkill? It's recycling.
Yeah, you've got to eat something
it.
while you're sitting in the car waiting to...
No, John Turode does know what he's talking about and he does care about the food.
What other things have you eaten from the street?
Someone brought me a bin bag of 10 pheasants the other day and I went on YouTube and there's a really good video about how to skin a pheasant in 10 seconds. And basically, you put a pair of rubber gloves on...
What if you can't get the rubber gloves on the pheasant?
I like to, branch out, have survival skills. It's not all that funny scout bloke, Bear Grylls. Yeah, I can survive. Yeah, basically, you stick a sharp, pointy knife into the breastbone of the pheasant, got your rubber gloves on, knee on each wing, you've opened it out, put your thumbs in, rip it back, job done, ready to put in the pot.
That's my favourite phrase tonight. I can survive. You sound like a really annoyed Gloria Gaynor.
Yeah, she was my...
I now really want to see your survival show, which is like just 10 pheasants and then glass of rosé going 7 is a lot of flats. Amazing.
So, MasterChef judges were presented with an apple crumble by semi-finalist David Crichton. John Turode was so impressed by the creation, it made him cry. Would you like to see this?
Yeah, I'd love to see it.
It's very moving, so brace yourself.
Yeah.
Fabulous, fantastic, and faultless. Honestly, makes me well up. That is sensational. That's what this competition's about pushing yourself to the stage where you make your own puff pastry, you take the risk. You make a crumble, you make an apple pie, an apple tart, an apple millefeuille, whatever it might be, and some ice cream, and you take it to dizzy heights where it stirs emotion.
Wow. Have any of you lot taken a pudding to dizzying heights?
There was that night in Blackpool.
This is the news that John Turode got very emotional about a puff pastry apple pie in the MasterChef semi-final. David's take on the classic apple pie comprised of stewed apples, cream and a crunchy crumble top. With a soft, gooey centre and a light golden crust, John Turode has been a MasterChef judge since 2005. A simple pudding with a shiny glaze on top, Greg Wallace is his co-presenter. Back to the menu. Fingers on buzzers!
Tim, the very charismatic chairman of Wetherspoons...
Can I check, is that sarcasm or is he charismatic?
I think he is really... he's really good at PR.
You just like the fact that he opens
I wouldn't
at 8.
personally go anywhere. He's announced that he's deleting all his social media accounts and that the Wetherspoons group will no longer be on Twitter, Facebook, blah-de-blah-de-blah, but they announced it on Twitter.
And do you know why have they said they're doing this?
Waste of time.
Well, this is what I thought was funny, was they were saying actually people are on their phones and social media too much. It's quite unhealthy. You shouldn't be on them for more than half an hour a day. And this is a place that sells alcohol.
Well, he actually said the phrase he used was, he said he thinks social media is too addictive.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. What did Wetherspoons customers use its Twitter account for?
Finding where there's a pub.
Complaining.
Well, the Sun newspaper helpfully picked out some tweets from Wetherspoons customers, including, "Can you please confirm, are your jacket potatoes deep-fried or not?" Thanks. And another one was, "So I'm currently in the John Fairweather and have just realised you've taken the haggis bites off the menu. Why is this?" And, "I think they need to lower their mirrors in the toilets. I'm 5'2" and I can't do my makeup." The Wetherspoons social media strategy hasn't always been an unmitigated success. In 2016, their Twitter account responded to a customer who had expressed frustration with the slow service. And they replied, "Sorry to hear this. We are working on speed and efficiency across the company and we'll have it sorted out in due course, Tom." To which the customer replied, "I tweeted that over 5 years ago."
That's so funny.
Yes, this is the news that pub chain Wetherspoons have announced they are to get rid of their social media accounts. Boss of Wetherspoons, Tim Martin, said people spend too long glued to their phones. Actually, in a Wetherspoons, they normally glue to the carpet. Time now for the odd one out round. Ian and Janet, your 4 are Napoleon Bonaparte, Tony Blair, a terracotta warrior on display in Philadelphia, and Anne of Brittany.
I think that the terracotta warrior had his thumb nicked. I think it's about stealing things. And I think that Anne of Brittany, part of her heart was a holy relic in a museum and it's been stolen.
Tony's soul was stolen.
Yeah, now you can take over, Ian. Those are the...
And no one knows where it is.
You're totally right about the first 2.
Can you give us a little clue about Napoleon?
Yeah, a bit of his anatomy.
His sexual organs.
It's his penis.
Yeah.
Really?
Where is it?
I haven't got it on me.
You can buy it in Morrison's after 9 o'clock.
So everyone's had a bit of them stolen, apart from Blair, who's...
You're almost there. They've all had a body part stolen, except for Tony Blair, whose head was recently legally acquired by a museum. According to The Times, the Essex Regiment Museum in Chelmsford took possession of Blair's bonce as part of a job lot of redundant heads from Madame Tussauds. And do we know how Tony Blair's wax head is being displayed at the Regiment Museum?
On a spike?
It actually adorns the body of a soldier. Here it is.
Oh.
Oh, it's had a bit of Botox since it...
Meanwhile, where can Prince Philip be found?
There's a home at Windsor recovering from his hip operation.
What about Prince Philip's head? Where can that be found?
Is it still at the hospital?
According to
tests.
According to The Times, 2 of Prince Philip's heads are on display at Manorbier Castle in West Wales. One clad in armour and another leaning over a spinning wheel atop a mannequin labelled a Welsh lady. Thieves in France broke into the Thomas de Brie Museum in Nantes and stole a 16th century gold case containing Anne of Brittany's heart. What unique title does Anne of Brittany hold in the history books?
She was Queen of France twice.
Correct.
Yeah.
She's the only woman to have been crowned Queen of France twice. She married Charles VIII in 1491, but very soon after his death, she married Louis XII.
Do you think it was too soon? You sounded a bit bitchy.
Well, it It's alleged that Napoleon's penis was stolen by a doctor during his autopsy. The doctor passed the penis on to a priest for safekeeping.
Here, you'll never guess what I've got in my pocket.
What further indignity befell Napoleon's penis in 1969?
It hosted Britain's Got Talent.
69?
Yeah, it was an early
Hampton
version.
Dick.
In 1969, it was actually put up for auction, but failed to sell. Although, happily, it was snapped up 8 years later by a famous American neurologist, where it remains in the family's private collection. Napoleon's penis has been described as looking like a maltreated strip of buckskin shoelace or a shriveled eel with white wrinkled skin and desiccated beige flesh. That is not the best way to start your Tinder profile. An American neurologist bought Napoleon's penis in 1977, but hid it under his bed until he died 30 years later. According to Time magazine, the urologist's daughter inherited Napoleon's penis, although she definitely had her father's eyes. Paul and Sarah, here are yours. Thomas Edison's marriage proposal, market trader Wayne Bellows, the bells of St James's Church in Barrow-in-Furness, and the N357 in Holland.
This is probably about noise, I would imagine. So I think that the wedding bells have been asked to be silenced. Thomas Edison's marriage proposal on the cylinder was too low, so it had to be amplified, or it was too loud, it had to be quietened. The greengrocer man probably shouted, has been told to keep quiet because he's annoying people, and the road is a specially built road which keeps traffic noise to a minimum.
It's because, you know, like Alexander Graham Bell, his wife, his fiancée was deaf.
Yeah.
He got married twice and one of the women was deaf, and I think he proposed in Morse code.
Ah. Is that right?
That is absolutely right.
So all the others are to do with noise, and Edison's the odd one out because it was Morse code.
I'll give you that. They've all been called too loud, except Thomas Edison's marriage proposal, which was completely silent.
Yes, yes,
Edison and his bride-to-be used to have secret Morse code conversations by tapping on each other's arm. So when the moment came to pop the question, he leaned over and tapped out this. Dot, dash, 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 dot, dot, dash, dot, dash, dot, dot, dash, dot, dot, dash, dot, dash, 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 dot, dot, dash, 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 dot, dash, dot, dash, dot, dash, dot, dash, dot, dash, 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 dash. To which she replied, sorry, can you say that again? What has market trader Wayne Bellows been doing too loudly?
Selling these apples and pears.
Correct. Bellowing phrases such as, taps of strawberries, lots of fresh fruit here, and inappropriately early times of the day at very high volumes.
How early?
Before 9 o'clock.
No.
Yeah. Oi! Janet! They're not open!
Lovely Rosie!
Just how loud has he been bellowing?
102 decibels.
Well, let's have a look.
Right. Come on.
I mean, I'll be honest, that was a little underwhelming, wasn't it? Especially when you look at this report on the world's loudest man in Christchurch, New Zealand.
Harry's just become the loudest person in the world, beating the record by 2 decibels.
Harry Schuler is officially the loudest person in the world.
What unique noise caused the N357 to get complaints?
So is it to do with the cars on the tarmac, like something about the surface of the road?
It's exactly that, yes. I think what you're trying to say is, was it specially placed rumble strips?
Yeah.
And they generate music when cars drive over them at a certain speed. Can I have a look at this?
Yeah. Sounds like a Labrador playing a kazoo.
It's the slow drivers down, so the rumble strips play the tune of the Friesland provincial anthem, if they're driven over at the correct speed. But they were driving locals crazy.
Yeah.
What are St James's Church in Barrow-in-Furness doing about their noisy bells?
Muffling them.
Yeah,
well, they sort of are. They're not actually muffling. Do you know how they're muffling them?
Well, they put, like, felt inside them or something like that, like a very thin fabric that doesn't change the notes.
Well, the church is due to become a campanology training hub, and the noise will be too... Yeah, I did say that.
Yeah.
And the noise will be too much for local residents, so they've been silenced with electronic sensors and software that is dubbed Guitar Hero for bell ringers. How do you feel about loud noises, Janet?
What do you mean?
You wrote a column in 2015 claiming Britain's become so darned noisy.
Did I?
Can you remember what it was in particular that was bothering you about noisy Britain?
Was it the editor shouting, 1,000 words, Janet, now?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, in no particular order, it was leaf blowers, planes,
Yes.
bin lorries,
Yes.
border terriers, lawnmowers, power hoses,
Yeah, I've got a border
supermarket
terrier.
checkouts, trains, jet skis and other people.
That's right. And on the train here this afternoon, there was some man on the phone all the way, and I got up, walked down the carriage and said, "Keep your voice down!" And he went, "Hang on a minute, I've got a crazy woman here."
Oh, you'd met him before then? I'm going to be honest with you, I can see why you drink. They're all too loud, except Thomas Edison's marriage proposal, which was completely silent. Edison's Morse code proposal worked better than it had done with his previous girlfriends, Dot, and who sadly dashed his hopes. Wayne Bellows is an appropriate name for a loud market trader, because he spends all day weighing things. I like that. Nice,
That went better than you thought it would.
It did. It really did. According to the Daily Mail, Mr Bellows was told he could no longer use his voice to attract Saturday shoppers in the posh town of Lymington, where some homes sell for £4 million. But for you, darling, 3.5. Time now for the Missing Words round, which this week features as its guest publication the British Myriapod and Isopod Group Newsletter, a publication covering millipedes and centipedes. It's been going for 10 years. I always knew it had legs. And we start with Whitstable man could be pronounced what for the very first time?
Pronounced Whitstable mun.
That would be for the very first time, yes.
Is he planning to move to Johannesburg?
Whitstable man could be pronounced Queen of Whitstable Carnival for the very first time. Whitstable are allowing men to apply to be Queen of the Carnival for the first time ever after receiving no applications from women. Next. What almost triggered by Eileen's size 14 knickers?
Husband's orgasm.
An ecological disaster is almost triggered by Eileen's size 14 knickers. This is a pair of size 14 knickers causing problems in a sewage treatment works in Cheltenham. And here they are. Paul Tingle from the Severn Trent Water Company said the pants could clog up our sewage system. That's a posh way of saying they ride up a bit. Next one. Paul Harding's failure to what in the 1970s still annoys him?
To be born.
Discover a new type of millipede.
Well, I'll give you that. Paul Harding's...
Whenever you say this, I always think they're brothers. There's Ed Millipede and David Millipede.
Paul Harding's failure to find rare woodlouse in the 1970s still annoys him.
See, I was right.
Yeah.
Paul just could not find that rare woodlouse despite leaving no stone unturned. Next. Dogs should have right to what, says High Court?
Lick people on the mouth.
Nip people on the mouth. Yeah,
Lick people on the mouth?
Yeah, because some people are like, oh, get your dog off my face.
That's me.
What?
Not me licking your face, is it? That's me doing that. No, that's me. I don't like dogs licking my mouth.
I know this. They're having the right to urinate against trees and lampposts.
Yes, it is true that dogs should have the right, apparently. Another dog arrested for urinating on a lamppost has asked for 100 other fences to be taken into consideration. Next, Titanic musical closes on opening night after what?
The bar runs out of ice.
Yeah.
No, the set collapsed. It was at Southampton. It was marking the anniversary of the old ship setting off from Southampton to New York, and the set collapsed.
That is correct. Titanic musical closes on the opening night after falling debris hits the stage.
Yeah, there we are.
And in keeping with the spirit of the Titanic's passengers, the musical songs were mostly third class. A bit harsh, isn't it, on a little regional musical?
Yeah.
I hear it went down very well. Thank you very much. I'll take sympathy.
Here's your next one. Very angry badger what?
Oh, Bill Oddie's new perfume.
Very angry badger closes tunnels at Craigneithen Castle. Finally, unfortunately placed exhaust pipe ruins what?
Honeymoon night.
Unfortunately placed exhaust pipe ruins an advert on the back of a bus.
Oh.
It's every model's dream to be in a high-profile ad campaign, but as James Herring on Twitter spotted, context is everything. Hope you're having a better day than the guy whose stock photo got selected for this bus ad campaign. So the final scores are Paul and Sarah have 8 points and Ian and Janet have 8 points.
Steve.
And I leave you with news that after 3 hours of meetings without a toilet break, Silvio.
Silviano.
They didn't have Silvio in rehearsal, it was just Berlusconi. They've just added this on just thinking he's tripping it will make it harder for
So
him.
it might be one of the other Berlusconis.
That's the sort of thing that could confuse a stupid person. You're not dyslexic by any chance, are you?
Yeah, I am, you cannot. And I leave you with news that after 3 hours of meetings without a toilet break, Silvio Berlusconi doesn't notice he's been followed into the bathroom by the paparazzi. In the Vatican, as a gust of wind catches the Pope's vestments... Is that the right word? Vestments?
Yes,
Yes.
it is the right word.
Yeah. So you're doing really well.
Yeah, you are.
But finally, woman patronises man on a I got news for you. In the Vatican, as a gust of wind catches the Pope's vestments, onlookers finally realise why he calls it Commando Fridays. And in Brussels, EU leaders deny treating the UK with disrespect as they summon David Davis for the next round of Brexit talks. Good night.
Well, for all their lies, can you spot the unbelievable truth? Join David Mitchell for episodes on the Radio 4 website. For more comedy, Series 1 and 2 of This Country are both available now on BBC 3 on BBC iPlayer.
Don't like the autocue. It's not a normal way to read, is it?
I feel like
I mean,
you have
usually
to, yeah.
on a page, your head goes down. It's not the other way around, is it? Where you keep your head still and then that goes up.
Yeah.
I might start practicing in future and just do that when I'm reading a newspaper.
It's a long way away, though.
Yeah.
I don't know why they're
Why does that say P45 on the top?